Hello, this is Jamie, and welcome to our third and final class in the series of Getting More Things Done. So glad to have you here with me. And I thought we would just start off with a brief recap of sort of what we've covered. There were a lot of comments and questions that came in, and I really appreciate those. And so I just wanted to take a moment to sort of bring us back to that first class, and maybe 5 minutes before the first class, where there's kind of that anxiety of almost like a back to school. It's going to be first class, and what all are we going to learn, and what are we going to cover, and are my questions going to be answered, and will my to-do list be simplified, and will my life in general be simplified? So I hope that you'll kind of join me in that journey, going back to just a few minutes before you dialed into that first call or listened to the first class as a replay. And maybe how were you feeling then? And I know a lot of maybe words that come to mind would be something like stressed, overwhelmed, crazed, just anxious all the time. And now start to think of, as you've been sort of working through the last 2 weeks and now into our third, getting some solutions and trying them out. I'm guessing that first week there may have been a little up and down, a little ebb and flow, if you will, where you try something and it almost feels like, well, this is worse than how it was because it's taking me a minute to get into the routine. But then you kind of hit a stride. And for each of us, it happens at a different time. It could be a week into it. It could be 2 weeks into it. For some of us, we haven't reached that point yet. So don't feel like, oh, my gosh, everyone's ahead of me and I'm behind. Absolutely not. The average is about 21 days before we really hit that new rhythm, that new routine, where we may be, starting to do the laundry just 2 times a week, except if there's an emergency, or only grocery shopping once a week, or maybe we decided to do some things online and get some items delivered, so that's one thing off your list. These are the things that it takes some time to get in the groove. Maybe you decided to go with the themed meal ideas, where we talked about, every Monday having a pasta and every Tuesday having a chicken. So it's not that 5 o'clock, what am I going to make for dinner? It's going to be chicken. And so you can plan your shopping list. It simplifies everything, whatever we can do, right, whenever we can, to sort of bring us back to simplicity. So just a reminder there. And also what I think is so important is, and this is something that happens all the time, even as many reminders as I give myself and in class, what can happen is you kind of feel like, okay, I'm doing it. Maybe you got your kitchen countertop cleared of the papers because we kind of took a little detour into the paper area and talked about that with the organizing project. Or you finally, got something off your list and you're feeling really good about it. And then there's that day where everything goes haywire. The dog's sick, the something happened at work, you had to get gas unexpectedly, maybe your tire was flat, everything that could go wrong. It's kind of like that Murphy's Law day. Or you just felt under the weather, or you just honestly didn't feel like doing it that day. Or you're just back from a trip or a vacation, and so things kind of got backlogged. And that's where we can start to feel like, oh, well, here, it's happened again. And you can almost feel like you have to go back to start all over again. And I want to assure you that that's absolutely not the case. You have made progress and strides, even if it's not completely visible to you yet. It's in progress. So all we have to do is start again. We're not starting over. We're just starting where we left off. So I hope you never feel like you have to go, all the way back, kind of like if you're playing Monopoly, go all the way around the board again. Absolutely not. You're kind of taking the tools that you've learned along the way and just putting them into place where you are that day, and you're starting over. So I kind of love to make that point, and I hope that hits home for you, because it may have already happened where you felt like, all is lost, I've got to go back, and that's absolutely not the case. So, of course, we definitely talked about that master list, and if you remember, we were kind of just keeping that going. So I hope that you still have that in a place that you can find it all the time, because that's the one you want to be able to put your fingers on when you come up with that new project or you've got that master list running. And then also we have our 3 for the day on that little sticky sort of note. And I just want to clarify, because there were a bunch of questions around this. And I just want to make sure that the 3 notes that you're making to yourself on that sticky note, your single to-do list, those 3 items on the sticky note, that those do not each need to be 18 minutes. And in fact, for most of us, they will not be. I mean, that would be 3 18-minute blocks, which if your day's already crammed, getting 3 18-minute blocks of something in is probably not happening. Might it be 18 minutes of shredding paper or going through mail or doing a project or working towards something on your to-do list? Sure. But the other 2 would probably then be those quick, maybe a 2-minute thing or a phone call, or, they're not always all going to be 18 minutes. So just to clarify that, that's your sticky note. But when we are in the midst of a project, that's where setting the timer for the 18 minutes, so we have a set amount of time that we're working, and that's our goal, to stay working for that period of time. That's the difference. So the other piece, of course, was taking that larger project and blocking it off on the calendar so that you kind of knew along the way what marks you wanted to be meeting, so that you were halfway through when you had half the time left or close, 3/4 of the way through when you were almost finished, and when you were right up against the deadline, you were just doing that, finishing touch so you could get that piece moving. So the other part that we really covered and I think was really helpful and something that I always try to remember is to just take something on that's sort of been on the back burner and you feel really bad about it. It could be that someone has offered you assistance in some way and you keep meaning to take them up on it, and then now you feel like so much time has passed. Do they still want to help you? Maybe it was a contact of some kind, and you feel like, well, or a thank you note. Think about, maybe you got some birthday gifts and now it's been a week and then it was 2 weeks and then it was 3 weeks, and it's like, well, is it too late to send the note? And absolutely not. Just getting those things up and off your list. And it really will brighten someone's day to get a note, and they're not going to be looking at the calendar going, oh, I can't believe it took this long. So absolutely just kind of getting some of those things that are turning a little stale on your list and getting them moving forward. So, of course, we kind of segued into paper and organizing projects, which is always part of getting things done, because for most of us, one of the things we need to get done is getting through piles of paperwork or getting something organized. And so taking that big project and breaking it up and remembering that we don't always need to know the steps all broken out, into 52 tiny steps. If that helps you and you're visual in that way and that really motivates you, then go ahead and do that. For others of us, that's just completely overwhelming and we just need to do 18 minutes. And what ends up happening is the next step always reveals itself. So you can rest assured that that will happen. And then, of course, we moved into the idea of, wherever we can, being more efficient or effective with our time. So remembering that scheduling the first appointment of the day, hair appointment, doctor's appointment, car appointment, or the first appointment after lunch, because generally now the schedule is starting fresh. So the longer the day goes, the more behind people get. Have you ever noticed that? If you have your hair appointment at 4, the person that was supposed to come at 1 that came at 1:10, then they ran over into the 2 o'clock appointment, and now your appointment's starting an hour and a half late. Any time that we can get the first appointment of the day or the first appointment after lunch, you're much more likely to be taken in on time. And if you can bring a magazine that you've been meaning to read from your own home, then if there is any sort of a wait, now you can get something done that was on your list and read your magazine instead of the one in the waiting room, which is always nice. So getting that first appointment of the day is really helpful, and calling ahead, I cannot stress this enough. But it really has saved, personally, I can say hours. I just know. I was doing a program the other day, and I knew we were going to be wanting to take some photographs of the program to put up on some of the social sites and things to, show everyone what a great time we were having. And the camera died. On the way to the event, the camera just went kaput. And, no one could have imagined, right? So this is one of those things where you think everything's going along, and then all of a sudden something gets in the way, and now it's going to cost some time because you have to kind of pull off and go shopping. And so I actually called the store in advance as we were driving. I wasn't the driver, but someone was driving, and I made the phone call. But just that quick call to say, do you have, and I kind of just wanted to replace the one I had because I liked it so much. Do you have this in stock? Okay, if so, where is this? Because it was a store that I wouldn't normally go to, so now I don't know which aisle to go to or which area of the store, which meant I could walk around the store for 10 minutes looking for the department, but I just asked them, was it the back right corner, back left corner, and that was very easy. And then it saved me, because if they wouldn't have had that camera, or a camera in that price point, I wouldn't have even had to go to that particular store. So calling ahead really helps. I called ahead the other day when I had an eye doctor's appointment, and thank goodness I did, because they had been trying to reach me but had written my phone number down wrong. And they were calling to let me know that my doctor was sick and wasn't in that day, and they couldn't see me. Now, if I hadn't called right before I left to go, then I would have ended up driving there and then, getting there only to find out that they couldn't see me. And so it just, that extra moment, and I know what you're thinking, but I need to have the phone number handy, and that's absolutely true. So whether we're logging it into your cell phone, and when you do that, you can actually group the numbers, because let's say you were entering a bunch of restaurants. Instead of just entering their names, you can put the letter R in front of it. So now when it alphabetizes your list, all the restaurants will automatically be grouped together. And, if you put S in front of the stores and, whatever other groupings, if you're doing carpool, C in front of all the carpool people. Or if you belong to a book club, B in front of all the book club names. So they'll all be automatically grouping together for you. And if there's a number or 2 or 3 numbers that you call most often, put a number in front of them, 1, 2, and 3. So that it's kind of like your own personal speed dial. So in the address book, they'll always come up first. So it's just these little things. You notice that, a lot of these ideas we're talking about are not these grand ideas that take a lot of implementation. They're these little things that you go, oh, why didn't I think of that? That's going to save me, a few minutes of scrolling through my address book. But you don't have to do each and every one of these ideas. And I think that's so important to remember, because we can get so caught up in, oh my gosh, I have to try this and this and this and this, and then all of a sudden the solutions themselves become overwhelming things that you have to get done, which is the opposite of what we want to have happen. You just kind of want to hear them and go, that's the one I want to try. And now, because you'll be able to kind of go back and listen to the classes, you don't have to think of all of them now. You can try a few and then go back and get a few more. And that's where you see, this one worked for me. This one wasn't really a winner, but this one's amazing, and it saves me so much time. So kind of looking at that recap there is kind of where we are, and I thought for tonight we would just kind of touch on the whole idea of what I like to call the 3 Ps, and that would be preparedness, or planning ahead, depending on which term you like, procrastination, or overcoming procrastination, and priorities. And so I think, with those 3 Ps, we'll sort of just give you a couple of points in each of them that I'm hoping you'll find helpful. Of course, the first, with that preparedness idea, that planning ahead, super useful, and something that we may not be in the habit of doing, or we may be in the habit of doing it for some things, but we could really extend our reach and do it for more things. And planning ahead, again, it's not that you are trying to control the scenario and trying to know exactly what's going to happen when, because really we can't, right? But that planning ahead, what I'm talking about would be something like, if you know you're going to be printing out a bunch of items for a report, then knowing, trying to kind of run through that and go, oh, wait a minute. If I'm going to be doing that, I'm going to need paper and I'm going to need printer ink. Let me just check. And so as long as you know that, just making that extra, because nothing would be worse now than getting in the midst and you're on a roll and you're doing the project and you realize you don't have all the supplies that you need. And that's a challenge. So just a quick reminder that *6 will mute your line. So if you know you've got some background noise, we can all hear you. And the *6 key, push star and then 6, that will mute you. And then *6 will unmute you. So if you're asking a question during the Q&A portion and you're wondering why no one's answering you, you may still be on mute. So *6 key will do that for you. So that planning ahead, just kind of thinking of what will I need, or I try, and I can't say 100% of the time, but you might want to try this, taking a peek at the calendar, like as you turn over from month to month, and just looking through the calendar and seeing what's coming up. And if you know that you have maybe a little a cocktail-style get-together, and you're going to need the little black dress, it may be, in the middle of August that you're going to need it. But when you flip the calendar to August, you can kind of just scan the events and go, oh, wait a minute, you know what, let me try that on now. So that if it needs to go to the dry cleaner, or if it needs a button put on it, or if it doesn't fit, or you just don't love it and you wanted to, give that one away and get another one. This is the kind of idea where just looking ahead so that it's not the night before the event and you're stressing out and you go, why didn't I look into this sooner? So that little bit of just, thinking in advance and what will I need, and the more we do it, the better we get at it. Some of us have a natural knack for it. Others of us, it's a skill that we're learning and, just improving upon. But that planning ahead can really save a bunch of time and keep you a lot less stressed. Even something as simple as looking at the calendar and going, okay, we've got a birthday party coming up. We're going to need a gift. Adding that gift to the list so that when you run your errands on errand day, now you have the gift, and it's not the buying the gift on the way to the event and wrapping it in the car, which is stressful, takes extra time, and costs us more money usually, right, because you're stopping at a store that you might not normally stop at. You might be buying a gift bag even though you have a bunch of gift bags at home. You may be spending more than you originally thought, or it may just not be the most thoughtful gift because you end up just getting a gift card. So it's that little bit of, thoughtfulness in advance that you kind of think, well, that's just one more thing to do, but in the long run, it actually is a huge time saver. So the preparedness, and if you, make yourself a cute little sign on the computer, or you decorate one, but just something that says plan ahead, or it just, again, as that visual reminder that this is something you're going to be focusing on until it becomes more routine for you, if it's not already. And then, of course, there's that procrastination, which I know for so many of us is like, oh, I just, I want to do it. I should do it. I feel like I'm behind on it. But then when, it's time, so there's I'll get to it later. And we pretty much know that later never comes. I think we can pretty much decide that, right? You think you're going to get to it. So with the procrastination, of course, one of my most favorite ways, for those of you that are kind of on the computer and on some of the social networks, and this one's tricky because you can just do the solution, but you have to avoid getting sidetracked when you're on the computer, which some of us are better than others, and I lose hours like that. But if you were to go onto something like, let's say, a Facebook, and tell your friends, I'm going to go clean the closet now, and or I'm going to spend 18 minutes, doing this. Now you kind of have to, because you've announced it to all your friends. Or maybe you have like a good girlfriend who's, kind of like your accountability partner, let's say. And so you can each say, we're going to go do this. And then you can check back in and you post again on Facebook, or you call your friend back up and say, okay, I did it. It's really interesting, and there's some psychology behind it, I'm sure, that when you tell someone else you're going to do it, it happens. But when it's just for yourself, well, you can kind of get away with it. Oh, well, this is the reason why, and you give yourself some good excuse. So it's sort of like that no excuses, I'm going to get it done. You know that by bite-sizing it, by making it a small task instead of a big overwhelming task or just taking the next step, that's a great way to kind of overcome the overwhelm when we feel like we're overwhelmed, and that's why we may be procrastinating. I also like the idea of giving yourself a little reward. And it could be something as simple as, your favorite lemonade from the stand, and you would probably normally get it for yourself anyway as a little treat, but you're going to hold off until you do the 3 things on your list, or your next 18-minute block of organizing time, or your next project. And you just wait to give yourself that reward, so you've kind of got something to look forward to, and you don't feel like, oh, I'm getting my lemonade, but I should be doing something else. So sometimes, that can work as well. So whatever you can find, putting on a song that's kind of like the one that gets you moving and grooving, and if it's always the same song that you play during this project time, then your mind starts to know, oh, when I hear that song, I'm going to be doing some organizing. And 2 or 3 songs together could be an 18-minute block. And so that could be helpful, as far as setting the timer and knowing I'm going to work for these 3 songs and then I'm done. So the last piece to this would be the priorities. And we kind of, during class 1, tried to identify which one or ones of that long to-do list were most important at the time. And looking at it and saying, well, this one's costing me money, and this one I've got a deadline coming up, and this one's actually past due, and so I've really got to get that one done first. And so those are some, easy ways to pick out the priorities. And the others would be, really taking a look and seeing, just ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? And that's a great question to ask yourself multiple times throughout the day. And that's how you'll catch yourself when you're, on the computer and just kind of looking around on YouTube and watching videos. Is this the best use of my time? And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be downtime where you are looking at videos or, playing a game or reading or just sitting and doing nothing for a moment. That is important. And so sometimes the answer will be yes, this is the best use of my time. It's helping me to relax, and I'm connecting with other people, and it is the best use. But there are other times that I think we'll catch ourselves and go, oh, wait, maybe not. Maybe I've overextended my time. I only wanted to spend a half an hour. Now it's 45 minutes. Or no, I could be doing something better. Or you may find that, for example, today I was on the phone with customer service because I had bought a new bag of bones, that little like dog treats, and when I opened them, they weren't fresh. And they were supposed to be fresh, and they weren't. And I don't know, maybe they were like $3, and the pet store doesn't take back perishable food. And I was like, well, this is kind of silly, but, Little Holly. And if you haven't met Little Holly, you can see her pictures over at jamienovak.com or bitesizedliving.com. But Little Holly didn't like these treats because they weren't the soft and chewy ones like they were supposed to be. I guess they were stale, even though the bag was sealed. So I dialed the 800 customer service number, and I'm waiting. And then I get transferred like 3 different places because I guess it's the umbrella company that answered. Then they have to get me to the dog food division. And so now it's been like 11 minutes, and I have a timer on my phone so I can see how long. And I'm checking this, and I'm like, wait, I'm like 15 minutes now into this phone call to ask for $3 back. And I guess, on the principle of things, they could have sent me a $3 coupon or a coupon for a free bag. But our call was coming up, and I had wanted to review the notes and get myself prepared, and I'm thinking, is this the best use of my time? That's exactly the question that came to mind, and I'm thinking, no, it's really not. It's $3, and although would I like my $3 back or for her biscuits to be better? Yes, but it wasn't the best use of my time because I knew what was going to happen. I could see myself talking to this person, having to give all my information to get the coupon sent, then the clock would be ticking closer to the 8 o'clock mark, and I'd start sweating like I have to get off the phone, I want to dial in early, and that's what happens, right? And so it really cut it to the minute, and I said, you know what, it just wasn't worth it, and I excused myself from the call, and that was the end of it. And so that question, is this the best use of my time? And again, for a long time, until I really got that to be a routine that played in my mind, I posted it on my wall. And when I would see it, I would ask myself, and now I just, remember to ask myself, and the note came down. So with that in mind, I think one of the most important pieces with getting some of these things done and your calendar and your list is to leave white space. So I'm just going to give a couple of other points and then give you sort of some closing thoughts, and we'll be wrapping up our 3rd class. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, feels like it went so quickly, but I really hope that some of these points and solutions were the one that kind of the light bulb went on and you go, oh, that's the one I've been missing. That's the one that's going to change the quality of my day, my stress level, and how I am getting things done. And that leaving white space is so vital. And so I'd encourage all of us to kind of do this little exercise either now if you have your calendar in front of you or at the end of the class so that before life happens again and you think I'll get to it later, just take a moment and do it. And what I mean by leaving white space is this. There's 2 different kinds of white space. The first would be just blocking off some evenings, some days, some weekend days, whatever it is, that feels comfortable to you, knowing everything else that's happening in your life. But just that you block it off with like a big X, and you may not know what's going to happen on that day, but you know for sure that you're not going to commit yourself to anything else. It's going to be time for you to spend how you and whoever else you choose to spend that time with. And this is so important because otherwise, you know what happens, right? The calendar gets chock full. And especially during special times of the year. Think of the holiday time where if you don't block that time off in advance, all of a sudden you're committed for every night of the week and you go, how did this happen? There's no time to just enjoy. And even if it means doing nothing, sitting in the yard and watching the firefly bugs float around, whatever it is. So now's the time to kind of block off. Now, of course, we can't block off every weekend and every weeknight, but, we'll do what's realistic, and maybe you start with, one weekend day, one Saturday, and then one day during the week, or 2 days out of the month, whatever feels comfortable right now, knowing everything else you have going on, and you just block it off. And so now when someone says to you, can you do X, Y, Z, it's blocked off on your calendar for your time. You can move your time, kind of like a chess match or a checkers game, but at least it's blocked off, so you're guaranteed some time. And I tell you, some of the most memorable times have happened for our family in that way, because we blocked off, I can't even tell you how many months ago, we blocked off last Wednesday, had no idea what the weather would be, who would be feeling like doing what, but it ended up that everybody, it was a good night, it wasn't 110 degrees, and everybody felt like going out, so we, checked the paper online, and there was a concert in the park, and it was truly one of the best concerts we've ever been to. But it wouldn't have happened if we didn't block that time off, because everyone would have been scattered with different commitments. So, it's about getting the stuff done, paying the bills and doing the errands and doing the laundry, which quite honestly, a lot of those things feel like after a while, it's like, wow, I just did the laundry and there's more laundry again. So we almost have to step back and take pride in the one load that was done and separate it from the next one. Otherwise, you feel like you're just repeating the same task, and it can become monotonous. But that Wednesday evening was really just something special, and it wouldn't have happened without that white space. The other kind of white space that's so important is between tasks, because you cannot bump one right up against the other, and that doesn't work. If you think about a doctor's office that schedules patients like every 15 minutes, right? Have you ever been to one of those appointments where you're like a 1:15 and the person next to you is a 1:30 and the other person's a 1:45, and you're like, how in the world is this going to happen? And it never does. It never works, because now, you've got all these different people and they're waiting and they've been backed up, and now your day is stacked and everything's behind. It just simply doesn't work. What does work is the, salon, where they book you with a little white space in between, 5, 10, 15 minutes block of time, to allow for things that went awry, someone that's late, traffic, weather, whatever it is. That's when we see success. So try your best not to block things right up against each other, or you're going to be behind before you even get started. But those 3 on the sticky note for the day that may or may not be 18 minutes each, most often they're not, I think one of the ways that we just see great success, where maybe we felt like before our to-do list was never ending. So I just want to remind you overall now, as we think about this, I know we've talked about all of these ideas that sound fantastic in theory. It's one of those things, right, where, you kind of read it and you go, okay, well, that's good, and I listened to that one, and that's good, and okay, I'm going to try that. And so they all sound really great in your mind. And then something can happen between now, when you're hearing them, and the time where you finish hearing them and try to implement them on your own. There can be a little bit of a disconnect where you go, okay, well, it sounded good, and now I don't know what's happening. Why isn't it working for me? And I would just, encourage you to be flexible and work with your own style and tweak the solution. You may have heard it explained in one very specific way, and you go, well, okay, but that's not going to work for me. Well, then let's modify it so that it does work for you. There's no cookie-cutter solution. And honestly, we can't really do this wrong. It's not like, there's going to be a penalty for getting it wrong. You just have to figure out, how am I going to get this into my day? And the other piece to this is, in the idea of being realistic, is there's 24 hours in a day. Trying to cram 53 tasks into 24 hours just simply cannot happen. Like, it can't. And if you continue to try that, then you're going to find yourself, fighting a losing battle. And it's going to zap your energy, and you start to kind of go in this downward spiral. It just simply can't happen. And so we need to pull stuff off the list if you find that that's kind of where you are. There are going to be days like that where it's just like, oh my gosh, you go, 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 go. But that cannot be the consistent pace. It's impossible to maintain that. So we want to look at, where can we delegate, where can things drop off the list, and where can we really choose the tasks that support our overall priorities in our life. Where if your priority is spending more time with family, then we want to choose the tasks that get us there. And if your priority is to renovate your house for sale, then we're choosing the tasks that get you there. And you can't do everything at once. So you kind of choose those 3 themes and then fit the tasks into those. And then 3 more themes later. Once the house is on the market, then you can do something else. But you can't do everything at once, and you can't do it at once well. So I think, kind of looking over my notes and thinking about the classes that we've had, I'm just super excited to see the success stories that have come pouring in. After we kind of get clarity and try these ideas, then what happens is we see wild success where you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that my list went from this, list of 523 things that nothing was getting done to I'm actually seeing things be accomplished and get off the list, which is fantastic. And sure, new things will come on, but at least you're not staring at the same tasks that have been on there for 6 months, a year, 2 years, or more in some cases. So it's I hope that you will continue to focus on what's working and focus on all that you are getting done and add some new ideas and tips and solutions in, try them out, see if they're winners. And it would be fantastic to just kind of look back and go, oh my gosh, that's where I was, and this is where I am, and what a change. So I can't wait for you to continue sharing those stories with me. I look forward to reading each and every one where, you're telling me what's working and how it's changed and, how much more fulfilling and accomplished your life feels, and that's really what it's all about, So this has been great. I want to thank you so much for having invested in and joining me for these past 3 weeks, and it's just been a pleasure getting to talk with you and have that back and forth on the calls, and then also, to stay in touch personally and to, get to know each of you a little bit more. So this isn't the end of our time together. Of course, we'll continue as you're finishing the replay. And I just want to remind you, for any of you that are saying, well, this has been exactly what I needed, and I don't want it to end. And I know that for some of you, you've kind of expressed that already. And I just want to remind you, in case you don't already know about, we do have an opportunity where you can kind of stay in touch. It's with a yearly membership. And it allows you access to me and to our other members and to exclusive videos and all sorts of great things. So with the last replay, I'm just going to send you a link to learn a little bit more about the membership if you don't already know. And it's simply to, continue to stay accountable and to have that support because, our 3 weeks together was great, and a lot of times you don't want that to end. You feel like I just, want to continue this because I'm on the right path and I can see changes happening. So just a reminder, in case you're wondering, we do still have the yearly membership on for $59.95. It's typically $79.95, but if you feel like, that would be an investment that you want to make to continue to have this supportive community around you, 365 days of the year, 7 days a week, that is available, and I just wanted to be sure that you knew so you don't feel like, you're doing this on your own, because you're not. We can stay a team. So thank you again for joining us. I hope and I know that you are getting more done and more of the right stuff, which is part of the battle too, figuring out which is the place I want to go. So I hope that you'll continue with the 3 tasks on a sticky note and just a little bit of, because I know you like your homework, right? So just one little piece that I'll share with you now as we wrap up our official 3rd call, and that is to beware of shiny objects. And I think there's actually an official syndrome called shiny object syndrome, right, where you think I'm on a task and then all of a sudden something catches your eye. It's little, kind of glittery off in the distance, and you go there, and then something else, and all of a sudden you're kind of ping-ponging throughout your day. And so one of the great things is to really start to train yourself, and it takes a little bit of practice and some, really staying in the moment, but just knowing that if you're doing the laundry, you're standing there, you're doing the laundry, you're smelling, well, I don't know if you want to smell the laundry, but maybe the no laundry detergent. You want to use all your five senses, and you're feeling the cotton sheets as you're putting them into the dryer, and you're really engaged right there in the moment. You are where your feet are. And then you're moving on from the laundry task, and you're doing the next thing, and maybe you're making a phone call, and you're hearing the laughter of the person that you've called to kind of brighten their day because you know they've been a little blue. And that was the best use of your time. And you're really engaging in each and every task with your full five senses. And this is so important because what can happen is you can kind of flit through the day and you've been busy all day, but you really don't even know what you did because you weren't focused in on it. And amazing things happen when you really stay where your feet are and, be in the moment, and you're hearing and you're touching and you're feeling and you're smelling, and it's really a different way to go through the day. So I'd encourage you, if you're up for that challenge, even now, you can start right now as we're talking and you're hearing my voice and where are you sitting, and just really focus in, and you are where your feet are, and your mind is where your feet are. Instead of your mind being 20 minutes ahead, the call's going to be ending, and what am I doing next? The next step will reveal itself. Be here with us now. So I hope that you love that tip as much as I do. I think that might be one of my most favorite, and it may just become one of your favorites as well. So I look forward to your feedback on that tip. And with that in mind, we'll be wrapping up our third class, and I look forward again to your success stories and hopefully continuing to stay in touch, possibly with that yearly membership. So it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much. I'll be ending the recording now.